Tommy Ahlquist, God bless you, sir. How are you?
Hey, great. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you again too. I got great feedback from the show I was on with you, which is wonderful. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, God, I sound like an idiot.
No, it was wonderful. I get here, you got a Diet Coke for me, bright and early in the morning.
This is the way. I always try to share. Look, I love coffee. All right, I love sharing a cup of coffee.
Mormon coffee.
I know. That was what you stole my joke, bro. I was getting there. God bless it. Listen, you are.
They've lightened up on this a little bit. The church has.
Oh, on hot beverages?
No, on the Diet Coke thing. Because for a long time, Diet Coke was. Oh. But as an ER doc, let me just tell you, there's there's a couple things you need. I did night shifts. People will say, you drink that stuff? I'm like, hey, at this point, at 58 or whatever I am, I have consumed more Diet Coke than anyone. So I am proof positive that it's okay.
Aspartame's not that bad.
It must not be.
Buffett drinks like 6 a day, doesn't he?
Yeah. Buffett drinks a lot.
Yeah. It's like six Diet Cokes and 2 pork chops. Like that's his recipe for gajillions.
I'm a believer.
Yeah. Well, listen, I first heard your name a couple years back when someone was like, hey, you should get Tommy Ahlquist on. I'm like, who's that? This guy goes into this long explanation about you as a doc and then like knocking on doors and just essentially saying like, hey, development's coming. This is a great place. We can be reactionary and kind of just patch things together as we go, or there can be people with a plan. And, why don't we do that? Let's have that. And, that was about the extent of my explanation of who you are. And then, like 2 years later, you invite me on your show, which was great. Yeah. And now you're sitting in my studio. So like you were an integral part and still are an integral part of the development of the Treasure Valley. Yeah. What was the impetus for that?
So it started kind of haphazardly, quite honestly. I never anticipated it would get as big as it did. I was an ER doc at St. Luke's. Doing night shifts, and you know where Buffalo Wild Wings is. You have Eagle Road and Franklin, and there was an old subdivision there. And my dad is a hard-working guy. He's my hero. And when I was growing up, he was an electrician at the copper mine. He framed houses, was a framer, and then he pumped gas. I mean, he worked 3 jobs, worked his tail off, and just an incredible guy. Well, he was framing a building on the side and doing the electrical for it. And a guy from a development company came by, and this was when I was a teenager, and said, hey, can I pay you a few $100 to just kind of oversee this job? Well, it turned into him making the biggest leap of his life. They said, hey, do you want to come work for us as a developer? So when I was a teenager, he went and worked for a company in Utah called the Boyer Company, large development company. He was their construction guy. It was a huge change for this guy. I mean, my dad's risk averse, company guy. Right. Great grandpas, his dad, everyone worked at the copper mine. So to leave that security of that job and go, so that's how I got exposed to it. And I saw what they did, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. They get to do projects that, hey, it involves a vision. What do you want to put here? It involves working with great people. And then you when you develop, you leave and you look behind you and you go, hey, that was cool. And you get to design things and decide what goes there and interact with great people. So anyway, I'm working in the ER. I had a tech company at the time too. So I was busy. I had my tech company. I was working night shifts. And I just started knocking doors after my night shifts where Buffalo Wild Wings is. And seriously,
2 a.m. people look at you real weird.
Well, I was at 7 a.m., but I'd show up, knock, knock, knock. And
they're in their robe with a cup of coffee. They're like, who is this dude?
And if you show up in scrubs, they answer, right? What's this guy doing in scrubs?
He's not polished. Is that blood?
Oftentimes there might have been after a night shift. So
there's some guy covered in blood at 7 a.m.
So I start buying the corner there. It was a bunch of properties, and pretty soon I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I can do this whole corner. I think I've got the whole thing. And I knew the hospital might want some MOBs, and I thought
you got to treat me like a 5-year-old. What's an
medical office buildings?
There we go.
Medical office buildings.
There you go.
So I ended up calling my dad, and I said, hey, I think we can go develop this corner. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like,
you're a doctor, tell me.
You're a doctor. Well, he knows you can't just go do
Sure.
a 25-acre site on the side that's at the intersection of, and I said, well, why don't you quit your job and come up and we'll do it together. And it took me about a year to convince him, but he did. He came up, and it was me and him, and we said, hey, we'll just do this corner. It's going to be fun. I could sit here for 3 hours and tell you stories of how it all came together. There's this great guy named Joe Ardiak who owns the Bass Block in downtown Boise at the time, and he had bought a piece of it, and he extorted me for so much. It was great. It was the greatest story ever. The guy was one of the great. I'll tell the story.
Yeah, I got nowhere else to be. I don't know what your plans are today.
So I'm buying up everything, and then I'm like, who's this guy Joe Ardiak who owns this parcel that you had to have on the corner? And I find out that he owns the Bass Block. He owns the Luco Hotel downtown. He's legendary, worked for Simplot, and he's this kind of reclusive bass guy that speaks kind of broken English. And so I try to meet with him, and he's got a wall of folks that you can't get through. So I finally get to Glenda, his bookkeeper. Okay.
This is like the Basque Mafia.
And I meet her at Vista at Quinn's Bar. And we go in the back room, and my first several meetings with her were in the back room of Quinn's Bar. I don't know why we didn't go down to the hotel. So, but we meet, and I said, hey, I really want to buy this property. She's like, oh, Joe's never going to sell it, ever. He's never going to sell it. And I said, well, that's unfortunate because it would really fit nicely in me doing this whole corner. Anyway, you fast forward 20 meetings later, and they would smoke. Her and Joe would smoke a pack of cigarettes the whole time. So my routine thing is my partner's in Salt Lake. So I would leave the meetings and I would call him and I'd say, Christian, I'm going to get cancer from this negotiation, because the whole time we're in Quinn's Bar,
you're drinking Diet Coke.
I'm drinking,
they're drinking
I'm pounding Diet Cokes, and they're like on their, anyway, it's this great story where we became actually pretty good friends through this whole thing. And I find out about this guy, unbelievable guy. If you ever go down, to his restaurant, he's got a mural of him. He was a sheep herder for J.R. Simplot, and then was ran a trucking company for him and made a bunch of money. And anyway, incredible story. And I'm way past any HIPAA violation, so I'm going to tell you how the story ends.
Okay.
So at the end of it, I negotiate a price with him. And it's way too much, but it's the last piece I need.
Right.
And I call my partner. I said, hey, I got a price. And he's like, screw that. No way we're paying that. And I said, listen, I've been working this guy for a year. We're paying
I now have cancer of the lung.
He's like, I'm coming up. I'm coming up to meet with him. I'm going to get him down off that price. I said, okay, great. Come up. So I called Glenda, the gatekeeper. I said, hey, Glenda, Christian's coming up. Can we meet you down at Quinn's Bar? And she said, we'll go to the restaurant. We get to go to the restaurant after all this time. We get to go at the restaurant next to the hotel down there, the Bass Block. I'm like, are you kidding me? She's like, no, we'll go to the restaurant. So Christian comes to town. We go to the restaurant. I'll never forget it. They have an upper room in the restaurant, private room. We go sit down, and it's me and Glenda, Joe, and Christian. And he orders for us. He puts on this show. He has them come. We each get lamb shanks. A 7-course meal. It's this delicious meal. But here's the part of the story that's the best part. At the end of it, the waiter comes over and hands me the bill. And I'm like, I look down at it and I'm like, hey, I'm in your restaurant. So I hand it to Christian. And then here's the other funny part of the story is the price at the end of the night was $200,000 more than that we started at. And we walked out in the parking lot, and Christian's like, I just paid that freaking bill, and we're paying more than we paid before I came up. He's like, that's the worst lamb shank I've ever had in my life. So then it became a verb. We got lamb shanked after that. Anyway, we ended up closing with Joe.
Dude, whoever Joe is.
Oh, he was
master. This man,
Joe Ardiak. So I gotta flash forward.
He made you pay.
He made us pay for the thing and negotiated a price $200,000 more than when we came in. But we buy it.
What a flex.
Okay, so we do it.
Holy cow.
We do it. We get the corner. Okay, here's the best part of the story. Flash forward now 5 years. Portico's built, so it's the whole thing where the MOBs are right there by St. Luke's. I'm working an ER shift, okay?
Still working. I
go into a room, and it's Joe Ardiak. And I'm like, hey. And it was actually really nice to see him. I went up, and he was there for some chest pain. So back in the day, if you came in with chest pain, we had chest pain centers. If your cardiac enzymes don't bump immediately. So in order to not miss any heart attacks, you put people in observation for 8 hours, and then you redraw their cardiac enzymes. So I got to spend the whole evening with him and go back in several times and talk to him. So I'm sitting there charting, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get this guy before he leaves, because he's doing better now. Like, he hasn't had a heart attack. He's going to go home. So it's one of my most proud moments of my whole life. So I went in and I pulled my chair next to him. I said, hey man, I'm really, you're doing great. You're going to get to go home here in a little bit. And I said, I haven't wanted to mix business with taking care of you. But before you leave, I got to tell you, Joe, you negotiated a horrible deal with me. I said, you sold me that property so cheap, and we made so much money off you. I feel like they took advantage of me.
Is he still in the hospital bed?
Oh yeah, he's
like
still
in the gown.
Oh yeah, he's
like he's in the butt out gown, and you're talking him. Excuse my language. Like, what?
He's still in his gown.
Oh my God.
And he looked at me. He said, "You did?" And I said, "Yeah, I have to apologize to you for it." Now, nothing could be farther from the truth, Matt. He did what we paid him for this property was way too much, but anyway, it's a great story.
You are a terrible person. Remind me to never ever get on your bad side.
He's a wonderful guy. Wonderful guy.
Did he send you the hospital bill afterwards?
No, when I saw him, he was, it was great stories. Anyway, with development, I don't know how we got onto that, but that was my first project, and I really liked it. I mean, it was really fun.
This is on you. If you are just a glutton for punishment, that sounds like hell.
No, you get to work. So most challenging thing I'd done, assembling that many properties, got to work with the city. You know, the recession happens, so we have Still up on the corner, and the Great Recession happens. Lehman Brothers shuts down. I get a call from the bank, and they're like, "Hey, we've frozen all your loans." I'm like, "You can't do that." And they said, "Look at page
blah,
one,
blah, blah.
Yeah. And we battle through that, and unlike most things, when you go through something as difficult as that you learn more during the bad times. You do the good times. Made it through the Great Recession, then went downtown and did the 8th and Main building, and just fell in love with it. Like, fell in love with the whole thing. But I think. No intention to ever leave medicine ever. In fact, the next step, I worked in Weiser, Idaho, doing 24-hour shifts, trying to go part-time, because I'm like, I'm not leaving healthcare. I really enjoyed being a doc. But it got big. We kept doing projects, and it's a different world. One of the things about healthcare people don't realize is the professional satisfaction you get with interacting between the different professions. You just tell him your dad's a doc. He could confirm. It's not awesome. Especially now, people feel overworked. They just a lot of stressors and pressures on them. And when you compare that, because that was my night job, literally, and then my day job was interacting with architects and engineers and cities and attorneys, and everyone was so pleasant and nice and happy. And then at night, I'd be working a night shift and calling oncologists and say, "Hey, I got to admit one of your patients," and he'd yell at me for an hour because I woke him up, and it's just there's a lot of dissatisfaction, right? And that's ER, right? I mean, in the ER, it's different. I'm sure
you're dealing with people on their worst days.
Yeah,
this is not good.
It's their worst day. I like to think of it as their time of greatest need. I mean, you walk in, and I got really good at walking in and saying, "How can I help you tonight?" Because oftentimes the chief complaint was not why they were there, and I really. As a young doc, I remember, you're just like, you're this machine, just like, get out of here. And then as I matured, some of the most satisfying interactions were you came in for whatever, but I helped and connected with you on something that was really there for you. And I got you plugged in for a resource, or I helped you. And there's nothing like that in business, man. I mean, taking care of someone, letting them trust you and tell you some of their, their deepest, darkest concerns or worries or fears or problems, and then them trusting you and believing you with what you tell them and making a difference in their life. I still, every once in a while, I'll have someone come up to me and say, "Hey, you don't remember me, do you?" And I'm like, "No, I don't remember you at all." And they're like, "You took care of my son 10 years ago," or whatever. It's super rewarding. Healthcare, So I still encourage people to go into it. I think it's, there's a lot of things you can do in business. There's a lot of ways to make money. But if you can find a niche in healthcare that you enjoy, and you take care of people, it kind of covers up a lot of the BS of healthcare.
I appreciate that sentiment deeply. I was, again, never in the medical profession or healthcare, but from an education standpoint, I had the student, man, this guy was a pain in the ass. I had the student reach out to me a couple years ago, and he was, again, I believed in 100%. He did fine. He was just like an edgy 16, 17-year-old. And as like a 22-year-old, he reached out and apologized for being edgy and was so grateful for the help that I had given him. I had another student just a couple days ago. He's like, hey, remember me? I'm Miles. I'm like, Miles? How are you, man? He's like, great. I'm driving through Boise on my way to, Washington. I wanted to know if you'd be around. And I quite unfortunately was, out of town that night. But there are those types of things where, you get a chance to reconnect with those people, and it's, a blip in your day, right? As an ER doc, I'm sure you were seeing dozens and dozens of people per day, but for them, it was this moment that has a portion of that's a part of their life story, right? They're like, I had this time where I went into the ER for this thing. Like I got a not vertigo. It was like Meniere's or something, right? So I was, this is literally like 21. I'm like 2021. I'm standing in my kitchen getting ready to go to SAT class, right? And I'm like, like get a little vertigo shot. I'm like, that's weird. Probably need to eat something. So I like eat this apple, and it happens again. I'm like, I'm gonna just sit down on the ground right here.
What, are you spinning?
Yeah. So things started going, and I didn't want to scare my wife, and I had my 3 kids there, and so I was like, hey,
whatever.
Yeah. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to go take a shower and get ready. So I go into our little master bedroom and instantaneously like Google what's going on. I'm trying to like reset the crystal in my ear, doing these like weird ear exercises. It starts getting worse and worse. And pretty soon I just hit I'm on the bathroom floor, throwing up uncontrollably, have to shut my eyes, can't move at all. My wife is there, like this whole big thing. Go to the ER. This is hilarious. This guy is like, all right, listen. And I'm I can't open my eyes. I can't move. I'm sitting in the bed. Like I'm there. And he's like, hey, listen, I'm going to give you this drug that's going to help you with this. It might make you a little anxious, just so you know. But like, it'll make you feel better. I'm like, okay, man, no problem. I'm happy to be there. Everything's fine. We're about to get an MRI. He puts this thing in the IV. And before he leaves the door, I'm like, dude, why didn't he turn off the lights? I don't even have does he want to go? Like, I am ready to jump out of the bed and fight this guy. And then for the next 20 minutes, I'm white knuckling the bed. Like I'm ready to kill him. I'm like, why is it so cold in here? They know I can't move and pull up the blanket. Like, so I could tell you this whole 4-hour thing.
Yeah.
That's part of my life story. For those people, it was like, I was in and out, and it's that kind of thing when I think when you get into a position where you can affect somebody's life or be part of that story in a meaningful way, hopefully in a positive manner, you have these experiences, where 10 years later, they're like, oh, for 30 minutes, you were the most important person in my life.
And you brought up 2 of the most important ones. I think people in education, by definition, have kids, students that are there.
Right.
I mean, the transaction is, hey, I'm here to learn something from you, right? And you're here to teach me. And in healthcare, it's, hey, I'm in my greatest time of need, and I'm here for you to help me, right? So you take for granted when you get out of those, you just have so many chances for interactions, right? I mean, you'd see 25 patients in a night. So there's 25 opportunities to look someone in the eye and say, hey, what are you here for? How can I help you? And genuinely try to connect with that person and say, hey, I want you to leave better than you came in, and I want you to have a plan. I want you to be comforted. I want you to have a pathway to healing, right? It's powerful. Same thing with education.
And the other thing with education and medicine, especially when dealing with youth, you're entering a phase of the world where the parents can't help.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and that's a really, and I'm not saying there aren't educated parents. Like my wife and I were both tutors. We could tutor up, any subject you want. But even with our own kids, we can help to a degree. But at some point, young people need an other. They need someone else. At least we did. And that's not every person, right? But a lot of times it's like you need someone else guiding you through hell, right? Be that education and so parents.
How this is, your kids are, I can't remember,
The oldest is 13.
13, yeah. So, and it gets even worse, right? As you become dumber, right? And then you get smarter again when they get a little older. But you rely on those interactions with those folks, because someone that can connect with them, you can say the exact same thing to them. The exact same thing.
I got paid a lot of money to do this exact thing.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what the parents had said. And I'm like, hang on, hold my beer. Let me try this. Well, it was really coffee. It wasn't beer.
And it would, I'll never forget my son. My son's a great kid.
Of course you think he is.
I think he's one of the greatest kids ever. But anyway, I thought he was, I had one boy and 3 girls. So I thought he was going to be Larry Bird, right? So I coached him in everything. And I'm like, and I remember calling my dad, I said, hey, this kid, he's still shooting a left-handed layup off his wrong foot, and he doesn't know, he's not gonna, this dog don't hunt, right? And so we got him out of sports. But anyway, it's a long story short, he ended up becoming a musician, found his joy in life.
What does he play?
A jazz guitar. So he becomes this very accomplished jazz guitarist, wins competitions all around the country, and became his thing, jazz guitar.
One of my best friends was a jazz guitarist. I was a jazz trumpet player.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, my best friend, Adam Schumann, who is now a professional musician, I remember we had district performances, and he pulled out this, the whole place lit up. Even the judges were like, "Oh my God!" Right? And he wasn't very skilled with music theory. He was an incredible musician, but not great. Like if you're like, "Okay, you got to do this," but he didn't really get it. So all these people came up. They're like, "Why didn't you try out for?" He's like, "Hey man, I just like playing guitar."
My son didn't have a guitar teacher till he was like 5 years into it. He had an incredible jazz. Justin Nielsen, actually from Eagle. Incredible jazz musician, pianist, but he didn't have a guitar teacher till like 5 years in. He was just all self-taught. Anyway, he comes to me and he's like, "Dad, I think I want to do music as a profession." Oh, well, okay.
You and like a billion other people.
I said, let's
talk about this for a second.
Appreciate your ambition here, bud, but
love that for you, but hang on.
You know how this works, right? I'm going to explain to you like budgets and money.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And anyway, he was like dead set. He's like, he was in the thick of it. And a lot of his contemporaries, his friends were going off to become professional musicians. A lot of them did. And anyway, I'm like, I like seriously, like reflective moment, dad moment. I'm like, okay, I can't crush his dreams. Yeah. This is yet. I want to get him there with me being the one that kind of guides him there. But he was not listening to me. So I ended up getting a hold of this guy named John Buscarino, who lives in the hills of North Carolina, and he is a custom guitar maker. And my big gift for my son was at this point, he's several years into this. He's getting really good. And I said, hey, we're going to order you a custom jazz guitar. That'll be the one guitar you can use forever. And the way John Buscarino does it is you put in the order. It takes a year to build the guitar, but then he checks in with you throughout the year. Yeah. And so we order the guitar, and then he calls my son every few months and just tells him progress on the guitar and asks him really specific things about how they want to customize and all this stuff. Well, he comes in, they became really good friends. And he comes in one day, he sits down with me, he's like, "Dad, can I tell you about this whole jazz musician thing, professional thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. What?" He's like, "Well, I've just been thinking about it. And I think it's, do you know who buys jazz guitars?" He's like, "It's not musicians. It's usually like people that have gone on to become professionals in something else, and then they have a hobby on the side, but they can afford it." He's like, "I really think I've come to the conclusion that I need to go to college. I need to get into it." I'm like, oh my gosh. So I texting John Buscarino soon as I'm like,
"Thank the Lord for you, sir."
It's like,
your bonus is in the mail.
I'll never forget what he said back to me. So I texted him, I'm like, "Hey, I don't know how this went down." He's like, "I'm a dad. I get it." And later on we talked about, anyway. So yeah, it's often a mentor or someone else that really cuts through to our kids
I had a box.com. Familiar?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So my one of my real estate mentors back in the state that shall not be named, his nephew was the founding member of Box.com. Oh, wow. And his nephew was apparently, as the story goes, like the hardest, sun up to sundown, very, very skilled, very talented, was always depositing as a teenager. This one person, I guess at his banking institution, called my friend, was like, he's depositing checks from like different people every single week. and he was like, where are you getting this money? And he had essentially started like a computer consulting and was helping him, was helping the community with all, and it was always random people. And it's like $100 here, $150 there. So super hard worker, but he also really loved magic. So he was like, I need a full size like cast, or like all of these different things. And he wanted to go into professional, magician, whatever career. And my buddy was like, listen to me. I can help you get this equipment, but what I would like you to do is I want you to go to the 3 most notable professional musicians and just talk to them. Just take them out to lunch. And so he goes and takes them and comes back and he's like, okay, I've decided this is not a good idea. And he's like, okay, and why? He's like, they all live with their moms.
Their magic is their moms.
They maintained the basement apartment.
Yeah,
but they always was like all failure to launch, and like they were really, really good at this thing, but it didn't convert to a prosperous, life that they were proud of.
Yeah.
What a damnedest thing. Anyway, so back to medicine. So that's like, it's one of those things, medicine and education. In a lot of times you need somebody else inserted that's a hyper specialist that can do it. But like your drive, what was really funny? Whenever I would tutor somebody who's like, I want to go to medical school or whatever, I'd be like, okay, why? And these 16, 17-year-olds like, well, I like helping people. I'm like, yeah. Plumbers help people. You ever needed a plumber? You need help real fast, right? Like, why medical school?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, my little exchange with them didn't really change their minds, but it helped them kind of start like, okay, what is it? Like, why? Because I can help people in a lot of different ways. Why this way? And you seem very passionate about helping, right? Not just in medicine, but in, anytime I've ever brought up your name, or even after you very kindly had me on your show, people are like, oh, I love Tommy. I'm like, why? I was like, I'm not saying you shouldn't. And there is a big emphasis for you in helping. Now, look, I don't know a lot about you, aside from what I've heard from other people in the short time we spent together. But man, if I had the success that you had, I don't know that I'd commit all of my time to helping. I'd like to believe I would, but like, what is that for you?
So I give, well, first of all, as we get older, I think you get pretty reflective, right? Mm-hmm. And I've had a couple of things where with health issues over the last few years, I think I'm even more reflective now. So I think I've had time to think about what drives and motivates us and how I want to live the rest of my life. And I think, as you look back, it's kind of the things that matter most is helping people. I mean, I know that sounds, but it is. It's where you find joy. It's where you find happiness. And I think if people can connect a passion of theirs, whatever that is, their talents. I mean, you have God-given talents of stuff that you just enjoy. If you can connect that with somehow where you're serving others, I call it kind of living arrows out, where you're like, instead of, there are a lot of people that wake up and go to bed every day thinking about me.
Right.
And it's just what we do.
Right.
If you can flip that and say, I'm going to wake up and focus on either my family, my loved ones, my friends, my service, my church, my community, and try to make a difference, you'll find that a lot of your happiness comes from that. And it's selfish in a way, because the more you do it, the more you feel like, oh, this is great. But where I'm going with this is, I got lucky, man. I was genetically loaded, man. I had my granny Pedersen.
Your granny?
My granny Pedersen. My grandpa Pedersen. I grew up right next to him, and we lived on a farm, and they were the house right next to us. This lady was her life. This was her livelihood, was serving other people. That's just what she did. Couple core memories for me is at least once a month, but sometimes more than that. She would cook 100 or plus loaves of banana bread. She would wrap them in tin foil and put a bow on them with a note. Very kind handwritten note. I can see in my mind right now, Matt, her handwriting, because I'd seen it so much in my life. And she would write a handwritten note, and then I would deliver them with her. And I did that. I remember being when she was in her 80s and me visiting her and smelling the banana bread and saying, are you still doing that? And she's like, yeah, there's just people out there, the old and sick people need me still. Right. So she served, she loved, she took care of people. She's legendary for just being the one that was there always for everybody. And I watched her do that. And she, another great story of her. It's actually, I had to rewrite my bio for something. It's in the bottom of my bio. There was a time when I was working ER shifts, night shifts. I had my tech company, Stat Pads. I was working that during the day. I was serving in my church as a bishop, which is it's 20-hour a week deal. I was raising my kids, and I was busy. I was really busy. And I went down to visit her, and she's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And when she talked to you, it was, when someone's listening to you, but it's just different, right? They're not having a conversation; they're listening to you. And when she asked me, "How are you doing?" and my normal answer, "I'm doing great," whatever. She's like, "No, you're not. What's going on? Like, I can tell, what's going on with you." And I just kind of unloaded. And she had this big, it was the same red couch my whole life. I don't know how it didn't ever change or get dirty, but it was this big red fuzzy couch. And as I got older, and I'm a bigger guy, and she's this little teeny, 90-pound woman. I'm sitting on her couch with my arm around her during these conversations. And that's where they always happen. They happen on that red couch. And, she looks at me and says, "I know something's going on. What's going on?" And I'm like, "I'm just busy." And I go on and on and on and on and on. And she looks at me and she's like, "You know what you're doing?" And I said, "What?" She's like, "You're focusing too much on you." And she said, "I want you to go back home and I want you to start doing one more thing at the end of the day, but not for you, not on a list, for someone else. I want you to turn everything inside out, and I want you to think about someone else." And I said, "That's not what I was looking for." I mean, do one more thing.
You just added one more
thing.
Do
one more thing.
And one more thing that doesn't serve me.
That doesn't serve me. And she says, "No. And I want you to, can you call me and tell me how it goes? But I want you to do it for a bit." So it became in my life this one more thing, where it was a text, it was a call. And I remember calling her in tears and just like a few weeks later saying, "Thanks, you fixed me." I mean, it got me out of my own head. I'm busy, I'm overwhelmed, I'm doing my stuff. It got me back to focusing on, hey, is there someone else that I can help? And it was, and there's an incredible story that happened. And you think about God and everything else, but think of the timing of this. One of my one more things, I was coming down a road right next to my house, and I was tired. And I remember thinking, okay, I got to do one more thing. Should I text someone? And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go knock on someone's door. And there was one of my dear friend's fathers. My dear friend was on a mission in the Philippines. And his dad was an older guy and lived alone. And I thought, I'm just go visit him. It was like 10 o'clock at night, Matt. Knock on the door. He opens up. "Oh, what did you do?" I said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so late." And he didn't even ask why I was there. I think back to the interaction. He didn't ask why I was there. Went in and sat down with him and just for an hour, just chit-chatted with him, and took a selfie with him, sent it to my friend. And he passed away relatively soon after that. And I think about that interaction, that conversation, that photo, that moment. It was directly tied back to me thinking, hey, I'm gonna go do one more thing, right? So I still try to do that. I'm not perfect at it, and it's pretty easy with technology nowadays, where you can just think, hey, who needs a text? Who needs a call? Who needs a visit? Who needs something? And so I think you say, why? I just think that that's what it's all about. I mean, it's not about money. It's about how do we connect with others? How do we connect with what makes us a community? And how do we try to do more? How do we leave more than we take, right? And I think if we do that, if more people did that genuinely, but I just say that's what this country is built on too. If you think about, you think about America, you think about Idaho, you think about our communities we have, there's a lot of people that do a lot of wonderful things. There really are. The nonprofits we have. So anything that I can do from my background, what experience I have to help those people, I'll do it. I just will do it.
There was a excuse me, Bentham and Mills, philosophers, utilitarians, right? That the concept that the only function we engage in is maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain. And I studied a lot of philosophy and whatnot when I was in college, and I got into this big discussion with a buddy of mine, David Puder, who's very religious, beautiful person, and we were going back and forth. He's like, "No, I like serving people." I'm like, "I know, because it makes you feel good. And, we had this big back and forth, and this is like 21-year-olds arguing about things. And I saw him years later at the rowing national championship. It was close by home, and we both went, and he was like, I thought about that for a long time, because apparently after college, he actually is a physician, he's a psychiatrist, and he went on these large bike rides kind of by himself to understand his life. He's like, I actually think you're right. And I think there are people that understand that helping other people brings happiness to their life. And if they can get their head around that and understand that it's kind of like, it's like a happy pill, right? Like if you can do something to help somebody, it's literally like ingesting a, hey, everything's going to be okay, bite of toast or whatever. And I deeply feel that. I read a paper about, I think it was 10 years ago, on the concept that you can't buy happiness. And the paper was, and a research study was really well done, because it was like, well, it depends, right? And what they had done to figure this out, and they'd given these participants $100. And for the first portion of them, they're like, okay, go out, buy the best thing you can get with this $100, right? Be it a meal, be it a drink, be it a new case for your dumb phone, like whatever it is. Get whatever you think is going to bring you happiness. And of course, then they had this mechanism to rate happiness. The second group, they gave the $100 and said, hey, you can't spend it on yourself. You have to spend it on someone else. And same process. Do whatever you want. Can't be on you. Rating the happiness. Overwhelmingly, the people that spent it on themselves were less happy, because they were expecting some big thing to happen. But the people who spent it on someone else saw a positive impact in somebody else's life, be that a meal, be that a book, be it whatever it was. And they felt better having helped that other person. And I think it's something that people inherently understand once they can wrap their head around bringing value to a community. Because think about it, just as social beings, if we actually were less happy helping each other, we would not have survived like through ice ages and stuff. Like we would all be dead. There has to be within the most functional communities and within the most functional cultures, there has to be an emphasis of serving others, or we would never survive.
I agree. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's only our second time together, but sometimes like some of the philosophical reasons we do it, I'm not that smart. What I'm just saying is like, no, but I'm just like, I know what's worked for me, right?
Sure.
And then I know what's worked for hundreds of people around me that have followed, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm actually not sure what the evolutionary mechanism for whether it's dopamine release or whatever the thing is behind happiness. I just know that a fundamental basic of how we find joy and happiness, true joy and happiness, is when we're arrows out, man, when we're looking at other people saying, okay, what can I do today? For me, I will tell you too, and I think I've gotten better at this. I've got a couple mentors that I go to still, but I get to mentor some younger guys. And I think if I would have started earlier in my life, starting my days, like really focused on kind of, okay, here's the fundamental things of what's going to lift me and scale me over my life. The sooner I started doing that to kind of really get myself set that's my time. And it's kind of corny, but like you try to have that perfect day and you don't, but if, I get a lot done in the morning that really is not looking at me, it's looking out. And then I can get pretty selfish, right? Because you can run a business. There's still stuff you do, right? And I also think I've got grandkids now. I've got, my kids, got my friends, got my family, and there's always so much you can do to help them and love them and support them. And then you get outside that sphere and you say, okay, who are my friends and the people in the community that might need a pick me up or a call or a text or whatever from me today, just saying, hey, thanks, or who can I go to lunch with? Who can I say hi to? How can I help? And then there's that.
You've never taken me to lunch. I've had some down days. Where are you on my down days? I'm in this dark studio editing by myself, and you're taking people to lunch. Thanks, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I feel that deeply. I mean, as a younger person, obviously, through the majority of my original tutoring career, I was just doing one-on-one in-home tutoring. So little slacks on and button-up shirt. And I was white glove, baby, and go sit at the, drive to individual houses. And it wasn't until I was in my early 30s when I opened up a classroom. And again, it was just me, but I opened this classroom and I started recognizing the value of building community, and essentially just making fertile earth for things to grow. And having a classroom, I was also able to start inviting, like if I had a 6-person classroom, only 5 seats taken, I started inviting in people that, obviously couldn't afford it or whatever. And it allowed me to have this, kind of community building mechanism because, for a number of reasons, but I didn't get that until I was in my 30s, like mid 30s. And then moving forward, it's like, okay, so you actually do have the capacity, instead of sitting at one dining room table, you have the capacity to affect a lot of people in a positive way. What is the most long lasting, like where are the biggest problems then, right? And that's essentially what I started doing and looking around in my late 30s and early 40s, like where are the problems? Like where are the big community problems? And I feel like, and you could make comment on this, I feel like nationally, and even within this area, since I've lived here, which is not that long, about 3.5 years, it's almost like the Tower of Babel, right? Like it's just getting more and more exacerbated where people are talking louder and then screaming louder and yelling louder. And we're understanding less and less of each other, which leads to more yelling and more screaming, where it's like people are just not connecting to other human beings because we're not like hearing each other.
Yeah. And we're you look at, we talked about this a little bit last time, but social media, I mean, what you choose to consume, the algorithm, then, we're in an echo chamber, right? So we're in something where, one, the barrier of maybe something that I would say to you, to your face, I won't, but I'll let it rip on here. I think this idea that, hey, we can say and do whatever we want. There's no decorum. There's no civility anymore. That's part of the world we're in. And then you see a lot of really bad modeling from lots of places of people that's how they get more likes and more follows and more whatever. So we're in a society where good behavior or kindness, decency, civility doesn't really get rewarded. It's the opposite. And then we're disconnected. Take just the way it's consumed, but now we're just very disconnected. And that's why I have kind of a few, like with younger guys that come to me and say, hey, what should I do? I mean, there's a few really easy check boxes. Go join a community board. I don't care what it is. Go get on some. For me, I like safety net stuff. Pick one of the safety net organizations in the Valley, call them up and say, I want to volunteer or I want to be on your board. And they'll plug you in 2 seconds. And that's an easy way, one, to really get connected to issues, but 2, get connected to a community. And then 3, get connected to a board of other leaders that are doing the same thing. Super easy step. And then the second thing is find ways. And this is why I applaud the heck out of you. I mean, you've come in here, find ways to get connected intellectually to what's really going on. And that's what I think the Ranch podcast does. I mean, there's more intellectual connection to, I think since I've started following you, and I told you I'm a faithful follower, is there's issues that I just don't, like if I've got my time to come to work and back and forth, I'd way rather listen to something about, whether it be about the INL and nuclear energy or water or farming or ranching or the school board election or the library, whatever the issues, but find ways to get connected. And I think for all the negatives of media, I think this medium of podcasting allows people to, one, have the flexibility to listen to it when they want to, and 2, consume what they want to consume. And so that's number 2. So 1, get connected on a board. 2, find ways to educate yourself. Another thing I think,
especially if I may, especially locally.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like we could consume national media, national podcasts, national commentary all day long. And then the thing that affects us the most is ITD, ACHD, our schools, our law enforcement, all of these things are not on the national scale. Yet there's so little effort put into them because very few people are effectively offering that alternative.
And even what does it mean, national stuff? Mike Baker does President's Daily Briefing, and he's here in Boise. I don't know Mike and Emily, but I listen to his every morning because it's a very efficient way for me to understand. One, a guy I like, super smart, and 2, kind of understand. And then I try to listen, like there was no local thing for it. And I think traditional media, unfortunately, because there are a lot of nice people in it, but I don't even know. I mean, we used to be consumers all the time of watching TV or watching the news. We don't anymore. So then
it's too complex.
It's too complex.
It's too complex for like even if
Yes.
you give the most charitable interpretation to intent and content on a news organization, it's like you got 3 minutes. Three minutes. Explain prior appropriation water rights in 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Like,
and then,
go.
And then the other BS thing, and when you were on my thing, when you came on my thing, I think it was you. It was the morning I had just been interviewed by one of the.
We were talking.
And I told you, I said, that son of a, I bet you he's going to write. And you know what? He did. If you read the article that came out, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I talked to you for 1 hour and you came in.
You didn't even look up from your computer.
Well, this was a new one. He came in. Now that I read his story, I'm like, okay, your angle all along was your angle. And that was going to be the story no matter what. So you talk to me for an hour, you pull out some vague thing I said, throw it in there that makes me look like I might even support your position. And it's just so disingenuous.
Right.
Long format, you getting someone on to be able to talk about whatever the issue may be, allows people are smart. They can say, okay, I listened to that whole thing, right. and this is now my opinion. So I think it's for sure here to stay, and there's nothing like it in the Treasure Valley in Idaho. So yeah. I really am I'm a big fan, because I think you think of all the issues that face us as a state, there are going to be more of them. Growth's an issue. How are we going to do it? Transportation, water, energy, whatever it is, this is the place to listen to it.
Yeah, well, thank you. But I couldn't agree more. And I think we have. I remember this distinctly. I was talking to somebody 10 years ago. Then there was women reproductive rights were a large issue in the national sphere, and there was a national, I can't remember exactly. And again, I don't come from like a political background. I just remember reading this article. There was a congressman who was criticizing him. He's like, we've spent over the last 3 months talking all about this one issue. He's like, let's get to the real things. And I remember telling this to somebody in my family, and she was like, okay, but what else is there? Like, okay, I understand they were talking about like abortion law, but like, what else should they be talking about? And what killed me is I was like, I mean, I know there's other stuff, right? Because we don't, especially on a local level, we don't even know what those things are that people are grappling with. We don't know about emergency energy generation, which, by the way, ties to pumps for water. And if we run out of water in 3 days, we're all donezo. Like all of these different things that we're trying to grapple with that literally keep the lights on, and the hot button issues dominate news cycles, and that creates a less educated and less informed and less in touch populace. So now people don't even know what to do. Like Mike Baker, and again, God bless him, man. Like he's a real famous, very intelligent guy. I listened to the president's daily brief, and it's like, okay, all good information. What do I do with that?
Yeah.
How does that, like, okay, I understand about, this issue or this political nuance position overseas. Or it's like, okay, all good stuff. What about 8th Street to 15th Street with bimodal lanes, right? Like, what about Valley Regional Transit? What about the school boards, bonding, levies, education? What about the problem? How about this one? I had Luke Malik on, who was, really enjoyed the conversation. He's like, look, ultimately, let me distill down a 45-minute conversation. At least in part, we have a difficulty attracting medical professionals into the state because, hang with me, medical professionals, especially younger ones, want to raise families. People that want to raise families also want good schools for their kids. And Idaho does not have a great reputation, whatever the actual quality is, great reputation of investing in education. That's strike one. You also have large populations of people that are moving from out of state that are here to retire with disproportionately large retirement funds, which means they're going to move into an area that's sleepy and nice and everything they want. They're going to drive up the housing cost, which means it's going to be more expensive for the doctor to move there, while they also don't vote strongly for school funding. Okay, so you have the older folks who drive up the housing cost that also don't vote for schools. Another strike. And the final strike is reimbursement for those older people is lower. So this doctor's looking at this town, this like rural town in Idaho. They're like, all right, let me get this right. We got a lot of older people here from out of state, which means they have high pensions. They've driven up the housing cost. My reimbursement's pretty low, and they're not voting for school. So we don't have a good school system for my kids.
What's not to like about this?
Right. And like you break that all down and you're like, oh my God, this is a wild situation. Like this is a problem to unpack.
That's a You talk about the future of medical education.
I was about to pour coffee into your Coke. I'm like, do you want some more? I didn't know if you were a Coke Zero guy. It was like, you're good with a Diet Coke.
I'm kind of a tried and true
Diet Coke guy. Diet Coke. Well,
I will not discriminate on a fishing trip. It will whatever the diet.
Well, truth be told, I bought 2 of those for you. So if you need another one, I got another. Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you think of demographics are not in our favor on this idea of physician shortage, provider shortages, like in any way, right? Rural communities, and you look at the financial pressures on rural communities, then you look at there's just not as many, there's not enough healthcare. Then there's the aging demographic, there's the reimbursement problems. Right. And then there's just the changes in healthcare, right? I mean, and you go back to, as when listen, by the time you go through undergraduate, medical school, residency, you're so poor you can't. I mean, it's ramen and it's like $5 of gas in your tank, because you don't realize when you're in residency you make like $30,000 a year and you're working 60, 70, 8 hours a week. That's just the way it is, right? So the first time they tell you can moonlight, right? You're like,
I will do anything.
I will do anything. So was actually a policy that you weren't supposed to moonlight until you're more seasoned resident. But I'm like, I don't care. I'm ready to go. So they pay you $50 an hour to go work in all these little teeny hospitals, and I was in Arizona. So I did it like all the time. Me and my buddy Tad Calley, who actually lives here in Eagle now, we would have this little system where we would let the staffing agency. They would barter us up in what they would pay us an hour.
Oh my God.
And we knew that they were their only 2 choices. So we would like be on.
This is illegal. This is some kind of like RICO charge.
This is freaking America, dude. Yeah. This is about as legal as it gets. Yeah. So he would, but it was
I'm not showing up for anything under $70 an hour.
But it was pre-cell phone, right? So we had to page each other back and forth and say, hey, they're coming after me for $50. I'm going to go to 75. Anyway, my point is I spent 3 years in Arizona, in rural Arizona, taking care of patients in an ER, like one room ERs. But you do that, and then towards the end of my career, I'm out in Weiser, right? And you look at rural healthcare. I don't think people understand what that even means, right? You're so reliant on these family docs that was their. I mean, it wasn't a career in the sense of, hey, I'm going to go to work 40 hours a week. It was their life. I mean, these guys would barter for stuff, and it wouldn't matter if you couldn't pay them. They were never off. They're always on, because I was calling them from the ER out in the middle of BF nowhere, in the middle of the night, calling them about a kid that came in with a peritonsillar abscess and saying, hey, what can you see him? What are you going to do? So my point is, like, that was the culture. You go back to the 90s and the early 2000s, was you had all of these family docs that were around the country in these rural areas that never were off, right? You look at how healthcare has changed and how medical education has changed, and the rules and the regulations, the expectations. A lot of these doctors coming out now have tremendous amount of debt, so they can't even consider anything like that, because they've got to go make enough money to pay off hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then secondly, it's going to sound like the Gran Torino, get off my lawn, old Clint Eastwood guy, but they're not signing up to go work 60 hours a week. They're not signing up to be on call all the time. They want to come in and do shift work and be gone. So you replace one of those docs with 2, maybe 3. It's not a 1-to-1, Matt. It's not. So in rural Idaho,
they want a max reimbursement.
Yep.
They and not in a
they have
hyper self. Yeah, they have to out of necessity.
Out of
because,
necessity. So,
if you have $300,000 or $400,000 of debt, you have to make financial decisions that keep you whole.
So you take Idaho, and you're largely rural. I mean, when I ran for governor, I went and visited all the hospitals in Idaho, and I spent a lot of time in those rural areas asking questions. And I worked in Weiser and know those docs, great docs. Worked in McCall some. I mean, you look around, we're up against it. We are really up against how are we going to solve this problem? I do think the expansion of mid-levels has been genius some of my healthcare mentors were mid-levels that worked for us. I mean, these seasoned vets that were nurses for 5-10 years and then became nurse practitioners. Right. So the idea is that we're using mid-levels the way we should. I think telehealth will help. So there's some technology things, but ultimately, you got a patient with a serious need. You got a person that can't be replaced with a computer that's got to come fix them and take care of them. Right. And that's a problem that we will need to solve as a state and as a society, especially as we age.
Are you a Bradley Cooper fan? The actor?
I am, yes.
Okay. The film Limitless.
Oh, yeah.
Right. He takes the pill. He's a super genius. I thought about that film for a long time. And I know that sounds like an odd thing to say because it was predominantly like kind of eye candy and, a lot of action and everything. It's Bradley Cooper. But at the end of the movie, the question remains, okay, if you were that smart, what would you do? And at the end of the movie, he's going into politics, right? And he's going into politics and not in somebody right at the end, somebody, you get introduced to him as this political candidate and somebody makes a joke. They're like, yeah, they're going to cancel the next debate, right? Because he had obliterated his opponent so bad in debate and not in a like, oh, we got him, but like everybody just agrees with you. Like it's very, very clear. And again, this was somebody who was incredibly smart. And I thought about that. It's like, wow, that's a really interesting proposal, which is people who are hyper intelligent and can work through the problems go into public service, right? Because he's not like a gajillionaire. He's not like and he could have been, right? As somebody who had a great degree of competency cross industry, right? Tech, development, medical, do you like, I'm sure you would bring perspectives that very few people could bring to the political sphere, right? So as you're running for governor, it's like, did people even want solutions? Or do you feel like the political apparatus is more of one of like, nah, we're not actually looking for the right answers. We're looking for something else.
No, I largely blame myself for how naive I was.
Well, I blame you too, but I'm just wondering, what do you think people wanted?
I think the machine is so big. It's a big machine. This idea that you can bounce in and out and do things was super naive. And I think that political machines, parties, this whole who's in line and how's it going to go. There's so much.
You haven't put your time in.
There's so much money behind it. So I think, and rightly so. I mean, if you're one of those people, I remember having so many conversations with people look at me and say, I don't even care how smart you are or what you want to do. The fact that you haven't been in line, or I know you and you haven't been serving the party forever and whatever, screw you. Like, I don't really care. So there's that. And then there's the game. It's a game. Politics is a freaking game. And I didn't know that when I went in. I was so naive. I remember, there's too many stories that are too deep and ugly, but I remember a couple of times thinking to myself, man, this is Idaho. I can't even imagine if I was in a bigger state or a national race. And I thought I had done my homework. One of my absolute heroes in life is Mitt Romney. I was able to see what he did and watch him and talk to him about what he did in Massachusetts. Being a governor is a great job. Able to affect a tremendous amount of change in a short period of time. I watched, he took a full page ad out in Massachusetts 1 year into his 4-year term and said, hey, here were all my campaign promises of kind of fundamental things I would fix. And he'd done almost all of them within a year. So I think you can do a tremendous amount of things. I do think that if I hope we get really good people to go in, and I hope they're really smart and they're genuine and they want what's best for families in Idaho and our future. And I hope they're smart. I mean, that's the other thing is we're so partisan now. Give me someone that's a critical thinker that can sit down and have a conversation with me and look at two sides of an issue and change their mind. If facts and data don't agree with that's who you want, especially when you're talking about roads and bridges and power and water and things that matter to our growth in society.
Aren't both parties though articulating that any level of compromise or capitulation is akin to just completely giving up? Like at fundamental to what you're saying is somebody who can look and be like, all right, you know what? I thought it was 2. It's actually 10.
Yeah.
okay, like we got to change. It's like, you can't do that.
Well, and I remember,
We're the party of 2. We're not the party of 10.
I remember the whole, like the other comment that would happen all the times. I don't care. I just want to own the libs, right? I remember the first time I heard that. I'm like, well, you don't
I just want to own the libs.
I remember that. I remember where I was sitting in the convocation. I'm like, I said, what the hell does that even mean? And like I want to own the libs. And then the one thing I heard, I read recently, like at least, Republicans can live in a neighborhood and have social circles with liberal friends, but liberals can't with Republicans. And that's true too. I mean, you look at the intolerance from both sides, it's at an all-time high. And I think it's going to stay at an all-time high. So, and then the problem is you got both parties that are so powerful. I've over the years interviewed people and sought them out to ask their opinion on, will there ever be a third party? Can you ever make it as an independent? Can you ever break in there? And the consensus I believe from people I've talked to is just, there's that ship sailed. There's just so much money in just being right on both these sides.
Didn't Musk just come out and like try to say he's making like the American party or something?
And you saw how it polled, right? It was like, even him.
Yeah,
right?
but he got Mike Pence.
Yeah, here's the richest guy ever.
And Scaramucci.
Yeah.
I think Scaramucci's on board. Do you remember when they brought Scaramucci in for like 3 days?
I've never told you this. So we have a conference that we put on every year. That's like a invite only.
Is this the royal we?
It's kerosene.
There you go.
Our company does.
Okay, great.
And so
I don't get an invite. You don't take me to lunch. I don't get to come to the conference. It's all right. Whatever.
You're on the invite list. Did you not get? Did you not?
Oh my God. Well, I moved recently, so it's okay. It must be, at the old address. Anyway,
Alex will listen to this. You'll have your invite because we just sent out. We send out an album, a vinyl album with the invite on it, and they went out yesterday. So I'm sure you're getting one.
Oh my gosh, that's actually super cool.
It's super cool.
What's the album?
Whoever we're having do the private concert the night before.
There's a concert.
Yeah.
Is it The Who? Please tell me it's The Who.
No, I can't afford The Who.
No.
This year,
it'd be so lit if it was The Who.
This year it's Kat Hasty, who's a songwriter. Last time we did was Vincent Neil Emerson, who's fantastic. But anyway, one year we were going to bring out a Goldman Sachs guy from New York. We had to get him here. It was this long thing. And he had an agent, and because we have speakers. So the night before we do a concert and we do a kind of just social thing. And then the next day we we pick a topic and we have 5 or 6 speakers, and then there's a keynote speaker.
Beautiful.
So he has an agent, and he calls us and says, hey, the only way he'll come is if Scaramucci comes with him.
The Moochie wants to come.
Yeah, he has to. And it works out great because he needs to be on the West Coast anyway.
Oh my God.
So as long as he can hop on the plane and come, then we'll, we're fine. So my business partner, Courtney Lydier, goes back to get him because it was going to ride on the plane back. Yeah. And he texted me, he's like, the other guy didn't show up. Just Scaramucci showed up. He's like, we don't get the other guy. We're just getting Scaramucci. He's like, what the heck? So he flies back with him because then I don't hear from him. It goes dark because he's on the plane. And when he lands, he's like, this guy is the coolest guy ever. Ah! And so he came and spoke to us.
Oh, he just took the other guy's spot.
He took the spot, and you know what? It was awesome. I've sent it out to people because he was fired in 11 Scaramucci's or whatever. There's all the jokes, but
did you see the press con? Well, the reason I remember him, one of the reasons is because there was this reporters coming up to him. What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? He literally says, no joke, listen, the Moochie just got here. It's like he referred to himself as the Moochie. He's
a really, really smart guy. And
really, he's apparently in with Elon Musk. So
really,
that's good.
Really enjoyable to be around. Anyway.
That's
sorry.
Awesome.
No, there's like a story for everything that comes up.
Listen, man, I love every second of this. Listen, Tommy, I feel like we could talk for, I know today is a working day for you. Please come back because I have like a bunch of questions, but I don't want to take your whole day
already.
It's been like overnight. And what time is it? Listen. Oh my God. I usually schedule like 2 hours for people. I was like, 2 hours will be fine. Cause you only had me talking for like 45 minutes. I'm like, he's not going to want to talk that. But now we're like going, man. It's the Diet Coke.
This has been great. Thank you very much.
No, listen, get away from the thank you. I want to know from you. This is a big thing. What is it that people can do when they move here, like me, I get so cautious with this, but to help, right? Because so so much energy goes, misguided energy goes to like, I just want to just stop with that. I'm going to save Idaho. Stop saying I'm going to save Idaho. If you got here 15 minutes ago, you're not saving anything. You're barely saving yourself. Just hang on a second. But once people properly orient themselves and at least start to understand Idaho culture, which I'm still trying to understand every day. What do you, I mean, you're somebody who commits a large portion of your life to helping.
Yeah.
What can people do?
There are so many great ways to serve in this valley. Like there are so many great organizations. I think that would be number one, is go volunteer somewhere. Go really start meeting the people that have spent their lives in the service of others here and understand them. And you will get to meet, I mean, I'm thinking of all like our top 10 organizations that we're always involved with. Any one of those would give you an immediate view into the people here and the people, you know, and so that's one, serve. And then two,
and it doesn't have to be a political thing. So many people come here, they're like, I'm getting politically active. It's like, can you go to the food bank? Can you go to this? Can you go to that?
Boise Rescue Mission.
I have Bill Roscoe coming on, I think, later this
Reverend
week.
Bill's one of my heroes.
He's fantastic.
Women and Children Alliance, like the food bank. I mean, there's so many we could sit and rattle off. That's one. And then two, get involved with like civic organizations, and that means different things, but there's so many different ways within your little community, whether it's Eagle or Meridian or Boise, to go volunteer and get involved there. And then I'm not just saying this to, I mean, I know I'm here and I'm in the cave here with you,
the fortress of solitude.
But dude, I really like, I think you've broken through a barrier, which is just get educated, like understand both sides of an issue. And the one nice thing about the culture we live in is people don't believe stuff anymore. So you don't have to. Just listen to both sides of an issue and understand them. We have got to find ways through this political time where we're so divided, where we at least understand both sides of the issues, right, and we listen to each other, and then we get good policy. Listen, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world, and this is the state. This is the shining, light on the hill of what we should be as Americans. So let's be the example of how you come together, how you have good policy on all things that matter: infrastructure, water, energy, tax policy, education. We didn't get into education today, but like there's so many good efforts going on to improve things here. We have it so good, but get educated, be part of this solution, not part of the problem. Don't come to my hearings and become the not in my backyard guys. That's the Californians guys are just like,
dude, they're the worst. They're the worst. They're the absolute worst.
I get it. They're here now and they're like, okay.
No, people, and again, I've heard this time and time again. People move here. They're like, I want freedom. I want personal property rights. I want all these things. And then the second somebody exercises personal property rights, they're like, you can't do that.
That's exactly right.
Anyway. And by the way, none of the solutions, I was talking to somebody who's planning and zoning from Caldwell the other day, and in that area. And he was like, listen, it's the same people. I was like, what do you mean it's the same people? And he's like, listen, we propose a development of X density, and people come to it. They're like, we don't want that density. Like, that's ridiculous. It's going to be like blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay. So the developer goes back, spends time, energy, redoes a plan to decrease the density. And then they come up, they're like, we don't want that density because you're going to have all these other problems. They're like, you were literally the one who testified against, like, and there's a problem no matter what you do. And like, they just make this amateur career out of being that person.
My favorite, we have a building downtown, 4th and Idaho. It's the Bannock, it's condos.
Yeah.
Started off as apartments. We switched it from apartments to condo halfway through. And had a uprising of neighbors just so pissed. And our attorney went back and looked through the testimony of all the people that were requesting the condos before.
And it's all the same people.
Oh, yeah, the same people. It's just can't, and listen, I get.
Do you think that they're getting funded? I gotta believe, to spend the amount of time you spend on Facebook and Twitter and then showing up, like emailing and then showing up, it's like somebody's got to be paying you. And they're just laughing all the way to the bank.
I wish they were, because it would make more sense than just like this.
Than believing your fellow man is just a crazy person.
Deep-rooted hate of me and everything that I do. I don't know. If it was funded, at least I would be like, oh, that's all right. That's cool.
Oh, that makes sense.
Go make your money.
Yeah, right. Because you know what I've been thinking about? Like the people, just a funny thing that I realized the other day. It's like the people that come after me, no matter what I put out, they're like professional wrestlers.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're like the luchadors, right? They're like, no matter what, it's like Hulk Hogan versus whoever, right? And no matter what, they're like, oh my God, you killed him. He's got the chair. Like, and that's all it is. It's like this performative insanity, and they're just in it. This is their amateur career.
Performative insanity.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what it is. In 2 words. It's not logical, and it's not based in any sort of reality, but it's performative insanity.
Listen, I would love to have you back. I was going to ask you a question about education, but we're going to go down a rabbit hole. I'd love to have you back on to talk education, because it is such a fundamental thing to Idaho. It is so important. And, you know, you have such a variety of people trying to address it. Anyway, I'd love to have you back on, because I know it's something that is important to you, and it is just so fundamentally
well, and
important.
I don't profess to have. There's a lot of, like, I think we said this last time. Debbie's doing a great job. I think there's a lot of great people doing great things. But I did listen. I went around and listened to 87 different school district superintendents, and so you listen that much, and you kind of visit everywhere. I think you know, there's some great things going on, and there's some little tweaks that can be made, and it just takes time.
And there's a perspective shift. And just to point this out, I went to one of the worst high schools in the state that shall not be named. It's actually it was worse than the worst schools in Compton. Believe it or not, it's in Northern California. And 20 years before I got there, it was not the worst. What had happened is, when the school was made, it was a fine middle-class school. It's no problem, and, you know, successful programs. And when I was still going through, we still had calculus, and we still had, you know, band programs and stuff. And the same 30 kids went through all of those classes. Class of 400, by the way. Yeah. And 30 kids, just right at the top, they all went from honors chemistry and, you know, honors English and blah, blah, blah. And we all hung out together, and that was it. But the point is, the school got demoted and downgraded and kind of fell into squalor because they changed the demographics. So now you had a lot of students coming in that were English second language learners. You had a lot of students that had single family homes that had like incredible poverty. And that fundamentally changed the rating of the school. The teachers hadn't changed at all. The administration hadn't changed. You changed the students in it. And so you have instances of poverty in the state of Idaho where you have, I've seen pictures of it, where students are literally sleeping in tents in a field and then going to a public school, and then the public school gets blamed for the poor performance of that student. And it's kind of like, okay, guys, we, in the last 10 years, we have doubled the number of students on special education. We have incredible poverty in very select rural areas that like all of this stuff.
God bless our teachers that are out there. I mean, and how... One of the great tragedies of just blaming people, because that's what happens a lot, is you take a teacher dedicating their life to their students, doing the best they can. Pick school, pick elementary, middle school or high school, dedicated. They don't, to your point, so much of their day, their students, their everything around them is not their choice. And then blaming them for some of the results. It's just like, oh, and you meet with those folks, and you know what? For most of them, they're just like, hey, I don't care. This is my deal. I get it, but it's got to be fatiguing over time, right? To just like constantly have the barrage from every direction, and then look at what they're making and go, man, I don't know. This probably isn't worth me. And you got to have, and then you do end up getting a level of cynicism. You do end up, because then after 15 years of people saying you suck, then you're like, you know what? I don't even care. Yeah. And then you become the cliche. It was like, I set out to like save the world one student at a time. And now I just care about getting my retirement. Yeah. Right. And you could see why you get broken down. Anyway, we'll have that conversation next time. Thank you for coming in, sir. I really appreciate you. Thank you for making the time. Thank you.